what we doing. This the new movement.
This house is not for sale. Your podcast of conversations around African hip hop. I am your host, Salam J, and my co-host,
FC.
Hezzy. How are you?
Charlie, I day. It's been a day.
Yeah, it's been a day. It's been a long day.
It's been a long day, but it's been a good day. It's been a good day. I'm excited about today's podcast. Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm excited. I've been wanting to talk to. We have a guest today, by the way. We have a guest today, and I've been wanting to talk to him for I don't know how long, but today looks like the perfect time to have a conversation with him. He released a project about 2 years ago. We couldn't have the opportunity to talk about the project, and today, being 1st of November, is the exact day he released the project. So it's 2 years today, and I think it's a great time to be talking about the project, even though it was 2 years ago. And also, he has a new project out that we'll also talk about. And this guest is no other person than Kojo Cue. He's been, he's one of the best at what he does. He's been doing this for over 12 years, I believe. I stand to be corrected. And he put out a lot of mixtapes. He put a lot of amazing projects. He became a major collaborator to Sheikha, and he gave us a lot of dope songs, projects. He, at some point in 2019, opened a show for Nas and Lauryn Hill in South Africa. And he's been doing his thing, and we are happy to have Kojo Cue. Kojo,
Bro, what's
how
good?
far? Cool.
Everything calm,
What have you been up
everything
to?
calm. I put out a project not too long ago, so I'm in like the promo phase for it. It's called 21 Memory Lane, and today I've been rehearsing because on Friday we have a little intimate session that we're trying to put together for people who enjoyed the project. Yeah,
Right.
and because because of COVID, I haven't performed in over a year and some months. Yeah.
Right. How does it feel to be getting back
I'm
to
just
the
excited
stage?
to be back out. It feels good. Like I haven't been happy in so long. We're just rehearsing. Like, yeah,
Whoa.
no,
That
like,
was a deep.
yeah,
That was a deep statement.
like it's fact. I haven't actually been. My 2020 and most of this year have been a little weird. But today was the first day in a long time where I was like, I could say I was like 100% happy.
Wow.
Like there was nothing on my mind. I was just with music,
That's dope.
with other incredible musicians,
That's dope.
rehearsing, and it's just that.
That's dope.
Yeah,
Dope.
so
Yeah.
that's why I said I'm happy.
That's dope.
Yeah.
It's I think I find it interesting that you can say you were 100% happy today. I think that it's important that we appreciate some of those moments, like, to be 100% happy and like be free. Your mind is free, and you're able to, absorb whatever is
Yes,
happening. Yeah.
definitely.
Okay, so Kojo, I know there's a new project out. Yes, I want to talk about a new project,
Yeah.
but I feel like as Yo-Yo Things, we haven't been able to speak to you about 2019, your project for my brothers. So I just want us to use this opportunity to
Yep.
just go back in time a bit and then talk about for my brothers. So I just want to start off with the cover for my brothers. So what I noticed on the
Yep.
cover is that Hezbollah was telling me it looks like um, three generations on the bench. What I noticed about them was that they all had a halo, but the youngest one's halo was much brighter than the middle. For lack of words, let me say middle child, and then
Yeah, like that's a ghost.
Yeah, as it goes,
as it goes up, it's sort of
yes.
things. Yeah.
So what is that saying?
So the cover for me is just a representation of life, and because it's such a men-centered album, that's why it's all like men. So it's a representation. The bench, the bench, and let's say the clouds or whatever, that's just life. And the people that are sitting on it, they represent three generations, but they actually represent like the same person.
Okay.
The
Just
evolution.
it's just the same person growing.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
like as a kid, your halo is bright because the innocence is at an all-time high.
Right.
If you look at the
Yeah.
kid's face too, he has a very big smile. He doesn't have any worries. He's happy. He's in a
Right.
happy place.
Right.
And if you look at the middle child, like you're saying, the halo is still there. It's a little dim, and he has a serious face because he's an adult now. He he now knows how terrible life can be, but he still has hope too because like other people have also made it like me. So even though now I understand that life is not as sweet as I thought it was when I was a kid, I still have a certain hope that if I'm serious about it enough, I'm going to make something out of it.
Right.
And then you have the old man who is just has just come to the realization that all of it is so futile. He's probably all he does is he keeps losing maybe all of his friends, all the people that he grew up with. The world itself has changed up on him. Maybe technology is a certain way. He doesn't even know how to keep up anymore. He can't even be in a club anymore because people just look at him weird. You understand? So, and all that he's waiting for now is for the whole thing to end.
Right.
So he has a lot more gloom about him. His innocence is almost all gone because Charlie, life just beats you up like that.
Wow.
At least for the people that I made like the album for. So I just wanted to be able to show that with the cover.
That's really interesting. And as you were talking, you were saying this album is for the men. Why did you feel the need specifically to target the male gender? Why is it because you're a man yourself, so you know what men are going through, or was there like a specific reason?
Yeah, it's 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 just that. It's just like men. I'm a man myself, so I understand. I can't speak for any other gender. I don't. Maybe I know the struggles. I've seen it, but because I am not that gender, I can't 100% understand. You understand? So I felt like I needed to speak for speak on the things that I understand, and speak for people like me. Also, um, I I realized that I needed to speak especially to Ghanaian men.
Right.
You understand? To Ghanaian men, because most of the people that I grew up with that are my age need to hear, like from conversations I have with people that are like me or whatever. These are some of the things that they talk about or they don't want to talk about that you have to push them to get out. So they needed to hear music that's a certain way that talks about it. To know that number one, they are not alone, and to also let them understand that it's okay to also be vulnerable.
Right.
And most of all, for them to understand that no, not a single person has this thing figured out. We are all sort of like playing it by the ear, and from when you're on the outside looking in, it always looks amazing for the other person.
Right.
But everybody has, everybody has something that they're going through, and because it's so like for the men, I realized that I still needed to, because at least in our society, and before other genders started being even like recognized, it has always been a man-woman thing.
Right.
And I also understand that our relationship with women, especially from where I grew up, was something that even if I am talking about men, I cannot totally ignore. because me, for example, I was only raised by women. Like
Mm,
for yeah, I was only raised by my grandma and my aunties and my mom.
mhm,
And my dad, the first time I saw my dad, he was like 14. I was like 14, right? And that wasn't even strange to me because nobody around me really had. There were people whose, at least my dad was not in the country, so he had like a reason for not being around. There are people whose dads were in the same area with us that we barely saw.
right,
It's
So for
normal.
us, it was just that's just what life was like. The woman raised you,
right,
That's our people that are not really present. You
right.
understand? And it's a deep thing for me because that is even how when I look at the the way we describe God, and we describe God as a heavenly Father,
Mhm,
a person that nobody ever sees, and
mhm,
then uh, we call the earth Asasea,
mm,
something that's always around. You're
mm,
always walking on it. It's like
mm,
you understand. So it's like
mm,
that.
mm.
So I still needed to find a way to rope in women, and since I knew that I couldn't speak about their struggle, I had a song on there called From My Sisters,
Right.
which is the only song on the project that doesn't even have any vocals from me.
Right.
Yeah, and just to at least bring some, yeah, because we needed to hear them too. Yeah,
Okay.
for our even personally for our growth, even before what we need to do for them, even for our personal growth, we needed to hear them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a follow up
Wow.
question,
I
Salam.
think
I don't
that.
know. I don't know if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, please do. I was just going to say that I think that he's already told us a lot about the album already before we even, you know,
Jumped in.
get into the questions. But yeah, I mean, you can always, yeah, you can follow up. Yeah, follow up.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said, you know, when you were talking, you were saying it was important for the people that I wrote it for. When I was listening to the album, I felt like it was very self-reflective, and I might be wrong. So the For My Brothers, were you also including yourself in there? Do you write? I guess my question is in two parts. Is the album also for you?
Yes,
And
it's for me.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
for
for me. It's
you.
for yeah, it's for me. Like it starts with me. So
Mm,
it's for me as well. It's something that it's like leaving myself little reminders too. You understand?
mm,
Because even from the very first
Right.
song, like the first and last song, I'm mostly talking to me. And then
okay.
there's another song on there called Muddy Stories where I'm mostly talking to me. Like those three songs,
Mm,
I'm like talking to me.
mm,
But I know that there are a lot of people that are like me, so they can relate. Yeah.
okay. Okay. Yeah. And I think you've answered my other
Okay.
part, which was do you write objectively, or do you write mostly from like your experiences? So are all the songs on there things that you've personally gone through, or from the conversations that you've been having with, your
No, that
boys?
I'll be lying if I said everything is. Yeah, I think for my brothers is it's things I have been through and things I have seen.
Okay.
You understand? It's things
Yeah.
I've been through and things I've seen. Um, but I would say, yeah, 50-50. Because a lot of it is also I have to have at least seen that's my how my process is. I have to at least have seen and or been around it because I have to understand before I can talk about it. If I don't understand,
Yeah.
I have this thing where um, like Jay Electronica says, uh, you sound so good and you play the part well, but the energy you're giving off is unfamiliar, so we don't feel you. Which for
Mm,
me, yeah, which for
Mm,
me is
mm,
you can
mm,
write about.
mm.
I can write about almost anything in the world, but if it's not something that I've actually been through in some way or witnessed somebody go through and been there, I feel like the energy will always translate as you understand. This guy, he
Right.
doesn't know.
Right.
It's not something that he's really done. Yeah, so I can only write about stuff that I have seen happen or that I have been through myself. But it wasn't every single story wasn't about me. For example,
okay.
Workaholics Anonymous wasn't even about me because I haven't ever had. Okay, I have had a 9 to 5, but that was like in essence. I've only had like one 9 to 5 my whole life.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
but I had seen
Right.
people like the my creative director, for example. I had seen him go from trying to build a business to trying to work for somebody, and both times sort of not working out the way he wanted it to work out. And he's not the only one. I've seen so many people. Yeah. So I should just take from there and speak.
Right. I've always appreciated the album, and I personally think that you had the best album in that year. And then
Thank
also,
you. Thank you.
you explain it more, and also you telling us that this is exactly what you wanted to do. I feel
Uh-huh.
like really translated it onto the album, which also satisfies the fact that it's the best album because it really speaks to whatever you're saying right now. That I want to the title for my brothers. I want to
Mhm.
find out the significance for that title because I know for a fact that you sampled Mensa for my
Yeah.
brothers on a single before,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
So
following up, you did an album called For My Brothers. So, of what significance is For My Brothers? That phrase for you,
yes. So it's a Mensa line from Anna, and Mensa is one of my favorite rappers of all
Anna.
time.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it's a Mensa
Mm,
line from Anna, and when I heard the line, I was like, this perfectly describes why I am a musician. Period. Like this
right.
describes me as an artist. He says they say that this won't take us to the Grammys
Right.
and the Oscars, but F the Grammys and the Oscars. This one is for my brothers, right? And I feel like that
That's
is
For
it.
My
That is
Brothers.
one hundred
Yes.
percent why I make music. I'm not here. I'm not too. I'm not. I'm not into awards, and I'm not into. You understand? I didn't even make the album to be the best. Maybe I should be more competitive. I didn't make the album to be the best album that I honestly didn't even think it would be
Right.
received the way it was received. I just felt like
Because we see.
you know that
Okay.
I just felt like even if 20 people that are like me listen to this album and they feel like they are not alone and it changes one thing for them, I have done my job. You understand? And it turns out that I
Right.
wasn't. It was
Right.
more than 20 people that were feeling a certain kind of way. So and yeah, it became what it became.
Rich Dad Poor Dad. I just wanted to find out if Rich Dad, if it's material richness for you or it's like richness and encouragement and support.
I understand what you're asking. Like,
Okay.
and I'm like super happy that you're asking this question because
Mhm.
I needed somebody to ask this
Okay.
because on the surface it really is material because we live in a world where everything is sort of based around what somebody has in terms of money and what else, right? But for me, Rich Dad Poor Dad isn't really about that. What it is about is making the next generation, the life of the next generation easier.
Right.
And that doesn't always mean having $1 billion to give to your kid. You understand? It is just making sure that if I had to what do I say? If I had to study in a school under a tree, that the next generation that comes from my village have better education than that.
Right. Right.
You understand?
Right.
Yeah.
Just making sure that every time we are building up because there's there's this thing that my dad used to say, which when I grew up, anytime I think about it, like it sounds really fucked up to me. And people still say, like he'll be like, um, I want you to struggle like I struggled,
Right.
so you understand. Yeah, and even though that is coming from a very maybe good place because he feels like he's trying to help you build character, I kind of feel like the whole reason why you struggled is just so I don't have the same kind of struggle that you have. Because if you are going to struggle in way A and I struggle in way A, and I let my kids struggle in way A, then we're just going to be stuck in one place, like in a loop, learning the same thing over and over again. And if we have to do that, that's like repeating class. It just
Yes.
means that you're not growing.
Right. Right.
You understand? So
Yeah.
I don't think struggle will ever leave anybody's life, but we are just trying to build it to a place where yesterday's struggles are not the exact same struggles that we go through every day, generation after generation. As we go on, certain things should be easier.
Yes.
You understand? Certain things
Yeah.
should be easier for the next generation. We have to plant more trees so that people who don't even know who we are will come and sit under and enjoy the shade. And now maybe their problem is that the leaves are falling too much. And then they also figure out a way to not make the leaves fall too much.
Yeah.
You understand? And then it just keeps going and keep going. So that's really what it is about.
Right.
But money is what most people understand. So I sort of make that the top layer of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I kind of figured
That's so
also because I was
interesting.
wondering if, because sometimes the reason why I asked that question too is that sometimes we have to recognize some of the systemic challenges that we have. So when somebody's dad is not rich, it's not because they didn't give their best, or yeah,
Yes.
sometimes there's also the systemic challenges
Yes.
that so but they can also give their best by encouraging and showing the mistakes that or some of the challenges they had to, yeah. So thanks for answering that question.
Yeah, one line in that song we're just talking about is, if I think you said something like, which dad you born now you go be.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether you're a father, but like, what kind of dad would you like to be? I know you said, your dad wasn't as present in your life. What kind of
Yeah.
dad do you hope that
So
you will
so that's
be?
that's like number one, and that's like number one of my just presence. That
Mm,
that that struggle has to be something that my kid doesn't have to go. I'm not a father yet, but
mm,
my dad was not around. My kid will never have to
mm,
worry about me not being around.
mm,
Um, the relationship that my dad and my mom had, my kid shouldn't be around that type of relationship
mm,
because it wasn't very helpful to me
mm,
as a person. Um, I There are certain things that I have been through that I have to make sure you understand. Like
mm,
I was a I was a very intelligent kid, I should
mm,
say. And because I was growing up in a situation where the resources were scarce,
mm,
instead of them seeing that, okay, out of all these other people, this person feels like the person that can go farther, so maybe let us groom him more.
Mm-hmm.
They took the fact that I was able to do things by myself to mean that I don't need any of the
You don't need
resources,
help,
so that
right?
it could go to the people
Mm,
that actually can't do anything.
mm, mm,
You understand?
mm,
So my cousins got all the extra classes and everything because they just couldn't be in the top 20 in class.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was the, junior Dejano of there, right?
Right.
And it didn't help.
No.
It didn't help me at all because
Mm,
um, I think after some time, I started just not doing well to see if I could get
oh,
some of that attention.
right.
yeah, right.
And
You were craving
yes,
the attention.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got the attention I got wasn't, oh, the grades are going down, so maybe now he also needs an extra classes teacher or whatever.
Mm.
The attention I got was more like, we know you can do it. So if you are
Yeah,
not doing
stop
it, it means
fooling.
that you are intentionally not doing it.
Yeah.
So we are going to beat you until you do it again.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
oh,
You understand? So
Mm,
these are all like when I was a kid, I used to open stuff up, right? I used to open stuff up to try and figure out how they work. And
okay.
so they tagged me as the guy who always spoil things. So they used to say in Chi Junior, then in Sasa Adia, Memfa will be Biamano, right? That could have been the beginning of an electrical engineer,
Right. Right.
right? But instead, what I got was
Right.
don't let him around anything that is
Yeah.
electrical, he will fuck it up.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
for me, it's important that I don't make these same mistakes
Right. Right.
with my child,
Right.
right? Yeah, it's important that I don't make these same mistakes with my child. Yeah,
We always say like we want to be better than our parents, or like, you know, the way my parent did this, I don't want to do that in the same
the
way.
same
But
thing. Yeah,
I think I've come to a point where I'm like, you don't just say it, you work it. So like there are some certain things that you know that my mom does that I don't like, and I'm like, I'm never gonna do that. And then I find myself doing those things.
yes.
Like sometimes my mom will like raise her voice unnecessarily to certain
And
things. I'm like, why are you giving me that attitude? And then I do it to other people.
it's in your subconscious. That's the thing.
Exactly.
It's stuck there. Like even I, what I have is a kid brother, and I have to catch myself sometimes
Right. Right.
because I realize that I'm like he's around me, and the energy I'm giving him is very very similar to some of the ways out. Like if he's curious about something and he asks, and I'm standoffish, I was like, but why am I being this way?
Yes.
But because it's stuck in there,
Right.
that's going to be almost like reflex, right? So what you need to do is make sure that you catch yourself and then you correct that all the time. You catch yourself and then you correct that. But I think with my kids it might be way more intentional than with my brother because the dynamics of the relationship is also different. Yeah.
It's a very great progress that we're able to catch ourselves in those moments, because I don't think our parents were able to catch themselves in those moments, because their parents also did the same to them. And I think we are in.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. The biggest thing with them is they don't realize that there's anything
Right.
wrong with that.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Right? Like
Yes.
I totally understand. I totally understand that they did that, but it's the fact that they can't see that there's anything wrong with that that is even more troubling.
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and this also cements your point that this album is actually for the Ghanaian man. I think there are a lot of us that have conversations, and uh, we share similar experiences. You know how we're brought up, because in other words, they say the father was never around, but in Ghana sometimes the father is at home but he's not around. I don't know if you get what I mean. He's the figure in the house. He's there, but he's not around.
Yeah.
There's no you have no
Yeah.
interaction
But
with
he's
your
not
dad.
there. Yeah. He's not
Yeah,
there.
he's really
No
not there, but you
presence.
see him,
Yeah.
so it's not there. So, but I'm also excited that even for Kojo to have put in this conversation in a on the project, I think it starts conversation. It makes people also think, and I see that there's also a lot of conversations around online everywhere about trauma healing and having discussion about some of these childhood experiences. So yeah,
Mental
I mean, once again,
health.
yeah, mental health. Once again, thank you very much for such an album. And for those who might not understand what mental health or therapy and all those things means, I think that this album would question certain things in their life. So my next question will be about loser, the song loser, losing someone to find oneself.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So my question is more of how do you deal with that? Because like we all come from somewhere, and we all know that we some of us have been able to move forward more than some of our peers, but also we know that it's not all that gravy where we are, you know, and we are where we are mostly sometimes because of exposure and because of maybe how we question certain things. So how do we uh oh no, I think I'm mixing up my question,
Yeah,
sorry.
Well,
So
it
I think
was.
I'm
I
more
think you're
on
mixing up with survivor's
survivor's
guilt.
guilt. Survivor's
Yeah,
guilt. Yeah,
but
sorry.
that's the thing.
Uh,
The two of them are kind of related
Mm,
in a way,
related, right?
because
Okay.
on
So yeah.
Loser
Okay.
I
So let me.
actually cut off a friend. Yeah, on Loser
Right.
I actually cut off a
Right.
friend that
Yes.
isn't willing to come, and then on Survivor's Guilt I'm sort
Yes.
of living with the guilt of having left that situation
mm,
and doing well, and I
Right.
still can't do
Right.
anything for them. Yeah, so
mm,
I think it's still linked.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes those that we've left behind, I feel like sometimes when we sometimes we also lose communication in terms of what we've been exposed to and the way we understand things now. We are not able to find the language to also make them understand where we are,
There's
and
a
I'm
disconnect.
wondering how, yeah, how we can deal with that, because these are people we grew up with, and it would be nice if they were also on the same page. How do we deal with stuff like that? I don't know if you have the
So the
answers.
first
I'm
the
just throwing it out there.
yeah, I feel you. So the first thing for me is uh like when you get in an aeroplane and they say, please put on your mask before you help somebody else, right? And it's
Hmm.
understanding
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
you have to save self before anybody else, because you can't save,
Right.
number one, you can't save everybody,
mhm,
and especially you can't save somebody else
Right.
when you are drowning.
mm,
So it is not necessarily selfish to try and find some grounding before you help everybody else,
Hmm.
right? Now,
Right.
uh,
Right.
the let me tell you the crazy thing about me. Like you were saying, oh, some of us exposure and everything. I think it's just luck, like
mm,
you're saying. It's just the luck of the draw
Mm.
that I happen to be the one that got the exposure
mm,
and not somebody else.
mm,
I
Mm.
can't say I was the smartest
Mm.
person I know in my life.
agreed.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah,
Right.
There are people
same
that
here.
probably could have
Right.
done way better.
Yeah.
They just didn't. You understand?
Mm,
They just didn't
Right.
get certain opportunities, and I happened to get it. It opened my eyes to what the world truly is, and it changed the way I am. And once it changes the way you are, the disconnect happens, right?
mm,
And now
Right. Right.
the the problem for me was because initially I wanted to go back, and you start getting this savior complex. I wanted to go back and save
mm,
my people,
mm,
right?
mm,
Let them understand that, Charlie, this is how things are, and they need to be this way to be that way. But I remember I went to, I think, my granddad's funeral, and I was around cousins that I grew up with, and we were having conversations. And I realized that they had not been exposed to half the stuff I've been exposed to, and they didn't know half the stuff
Mm.
that I knew,
Mm.
but they were happier.
Mm.
wow.
Like they were
Mm.
happy,
Mm.
right? They
Mm.
were super
Right.
happy,
Right.
just being in the. At least they sounded and felt happier than me, because even in every moment I can't
Mm.
be as happy as them, because I have to think about all these things that I know is
Mm,
happening at each point in time and how to get from
Right.
A to B.
Right.
They
ignorance
were
is
just happy
bliss.
Right.
being who they were. And
Mhm,
then that
Mm.
became a problem. That became like
Mm.
a dilemma for me, because it's like, do I open this person's eyes? And even though I can't really, I'm not opening his eyes and maybe putting all the resources in his hands. So do I open this person's eyes and then leave him to go through all this when I know he doesn't have half the resources that I have? And mind you, when you're given
Mm.
knowledge back,
Mm.
right? The knowledge that you got at you've gotten knowledge at points A, B, C, D, and now you are like at point M. When you're given knowledge back, half the time
Mm.
you're going to give point M knowledge back to them. And that's not what they need. They need
yeah.
A,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
Because at
Mm.
M, the resources
Mm.
that you
Mm.
have, so you are actually going to end up doing more harm
Mm,
to the person sometimes.
Mm. Mm.
You understand?
exactly.
So
Mm.
it's
Mm.
um, survivor's guilt is a selfish song. It's a
Mm.
selfish song. It's a
Mm.
song it's a song I'm just making because I feel so bad about not being able to help people that I feel like I should be helping. But at the same time, I know that even if I did give them the type of help that I can give them now, I will be doing them way more harm
Mm.
than good.
Mm.
You understand?
Yeah.
So I think I probably made that song so that when they hear it, they don't hate me so much. You understand?
It's
Yeah.
more
Like
self-serving.
when
Yeah.
yeah, it's more it's like it's a selfish song.
Yeah.
It's just so when they hear it, they know that bro, it's not like I've forgotten about you, but it's not it's not as gravy
Right.
as but
Mm.
at the end of the day, I you you don't expect them because I have been in that situation before. I have been in a situation where rich what do they call it? Rich family members will come around, like extended family. So the thing with me is my mom comes from a very good background. My dad comes from like very low class background. And I was mostly raised by
Mm-hmm.
my dad's people.
Okay.
So I had a lot of that life
Mm.
in my formative years.
Mm.
And then my grandma died, on my paternal grandma died, and I had to go live with my mom. And then it was like a complete like culture shock because I went from
Mm. Mm.
a household where we all slept on one mat. No one owned any clothes or anything in the house.
Wow.
Like whoever dresses first and gets to the like the particular dress first, whoever like showers first and gets to the particular dress first, he owns that for the day. It has nothing to
Wow.
if my dad sends me a bike from abroad, it's everybody's bike. It's not my bike. If I go and do my
Right.
bike about it, grandma might
Right.
take it and put it somewhere. So that then, if you are going to claim ownership over it, then nobody gets it,
Yeah.
That's just-
right?
Wow.
And then I come to my mom's side and I'm hanging out with my cousins, and they have stuff in the fridge, and I pour milk, and someone is asking me who poured out my milk, like your milk. It's not
for
even
all of
who
us.
poured out the milk. Like who poured out. It's not the milk. It's his milk. Like so now I'm learning about ownership and I'm learning about boundaries and stuff like that.
Right.
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 And
Right.
it's such a shock to me because like, bro, these people will never. These other people will never understand. If I was to tell, don't touch that, like it's my thing. Like, what do you mean it's your thing?
Mm.
Right. Like, so this day, if any of my cousins from that side come into my house and they see some sneaker, they are picking it up. Like, yo, it's there. Like, oh, wait, I'm a shackle you. It's like, you understand? And I understand them
Mm.
because I know that is all they know. But even on the side where people understood ownership, people always felt like other people that were doing better than them were not helping them. So there was always that auntie or uncle at the party where the other people were hating on like one of the onboa ubia and at the end why when you and then me growing up and becoming that uncle or cousin or something.
Yeah.
You understand? And it's like, oh, okay. So now I get why this person probably never did this thing for me. Because it definitely does look like he's doing better than me. And he is doing better than me, but he is not doing good enough
To help.
to get me without inconveniencing himself. You understand? And so, like, I totally understand that now. And I think that also went into it when I was like making survival skills.
Wow. So I guess my next question for you about the album is the song Nevermind. And I mean, quite a lot of the songs play on the idea of mental health. How important is mental health for you? How important do you think how much of a role does it play in a Ghanaian man's life? And how do you think that a Ghanaian man can start to take mental health seriously? Because I think in Nevermind, you start to talk about how necessary mental health is, and then at the end you just say, oh, but never mind, I don't want to burden you. How important is mental health, and what are the steps that a Ghanaian man can take to bettering their mental health?
I mean, for us Ghanaian men, it doesn't even exist, right? Which is weird because all of life is happening in your mind. So how can you not want that place to be healthy? How can you not want like some type of balance over there? And how are you? How do you see anything that has to do with you having some type of mental issue as you understand? Because everything is happening in your mind.
Yeah.
And so why won't you want to take care of like one of the most important places? You understand? And I am not any different. Like even till this day, I am. It was in 2020 that I started therapy.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Corona.
like
I think
yeah,
Corona did it to all of us. Like we have to speak to
yeah, yeah.
someone.
So like, never mind was just me. I just needed to once again point it out to them without being preachy, because I realized that sometimes too, that is what holds us back. When you step in and you're saying stuff like, yeah, I'm a know-it-all and I think this is what you should do, people tend to like, reject any of that. So my trick is always to point it out and let them come to that realization themselves and use me as, the point of contact. So I'm not even trying to tell you that you need to get your blah blah blah. I'm talking about me. Me personally, this is how I deal, and I think that if you can't help yourself, you need some help.
Yeah.
And it's okay to try and get that help and everything. Yeah, and that whole song it was built around a conversation I was having with someone about how as a Ghanaian, when you hear "How are you," it's only like a greeting. It's not really like yo, like how are you? I think either somebody asked me how I was and I said I am fine, and he was like, I know you're fine in terms of greeting and everything, but like how are you? Like really how? How are you really, really, really? And the person wanted to like know for real. And number one, it was a shock, but number two, it also felt like, can I even trust you with, you know, can I even trust you with how really real it is on this end? You understand? Are you number one? Are you not going to feel like you say if you have problems of your own and I'm talking too much? Number two, if we happen to have a falling out, are you not going to weaponize that and then use it against me? And then in the end, you are tempted to, you are forced to kind of still say, "Oh yeah, true, 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 I'm fine," even though you're not. You understand? So it's it's super important for me. It's something that in my quest to just be a better person, I learn about every day. In fact, my next project, I'm trying to structure the whole thing as therapy sessions, sort of.
Okay.
Yeah, because my next project is I feel like for my brothers is like me talking about life as a Ghanaian man, and it only relates to me because I am a Ghanaian man.
Yeah.
But with my next project, I am talking about me, like specifically me and my experiences as a human, not even like a Ghanaian.
Yeah.
So um, with that one, it's a lot more, and I'm doing a therapy thing so that people, if they end up liking the project, will now sort of become more comfortable with going to therapy.
Talking.
So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
understand, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And talking, like just talking to people.
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting. So my question was about From My Sisters, which is the only record on the album where we don't hear from you. We hear from, I think it's 3 women or 4 women, and then
Oh,
4, and then there's a woman that does a spoken word piece at the end. I can't pronounce her name because she's Ewe and I'm not Ewe, and I can't pronounce that name.
J. John.
J. Jom, okay.
Yeah.
Why did you feel like that song was necessary on this album? And yeah, first question is, why did you think the song was necessary on the album?
It was necessary because I cannot talk about the experiences of Ghanaian men without even giving space to how we relate to women. You understand? Because like I said earlier, I was raised by a woman. A lot of the people that I know, they were formed and shaped by women. You understand? So I can't see how I make an album that's totally for men without women being involved somehow. But at the same time, I didn't want to say what I think the struggle of women or what I think that women want men to hear, because I knew that there was no way to be accurate. So I felt like I needed to have a song where if my sister could sit me down and talk to me about our relationship with each other, about our relationship with our parents, about just our relationship with the world, what would she say to me? And that's why I needed a song like that on there. So I just called 4 of the incredible women I knew who, have their sing, rap, spoken word, and just told them this is the idea that I have. And I wanted it to be even produced by, I wanted everything to not have a single like man involved. Yeah, it was only later that at the very tail end, I think it happens even off beats where you hear somebody come into title. But I didn't want especially me to be anywhere on that. Yeah, so it was important that happened.
Do you think it is easier or harder for men in this day and age to be better men? So with all of the information they have about toxic masculinity, and about how women feel, and women feel they have been treated for some time now, do you think it's now easier to become a better man?
Yeah, I think it is easier to learn now because now women are bolder. There are more platforms for them to, also voice out and also let us know what needs to change. As opposed to before, where even if a person, wanted to change, there wasn't. Women were just not given the same platform or the same freedom to, speak and be heard like that. So I definitely think it is easier now. It is just like an uphill battle against cognitive dissonance for us. And that's always so instead of, listening, we don't listen, we just become defensive, and then it becomes a screaming competition, and then nobody really learns anything. Yeah, so I think it's become easier now. We need to get over ourselves and be open to learning and open to change.
And I guess as a follow-up from that, I how do I ask this in the right way? So, well, I guess my only critique about the album is because we love the album, which is why we wanted to talk to you about it. But because we're talking about From My Sisters, it's, for me, it was such a powerful song, so powerful that I felt like it needed like breathing space. So like I felt like, it could have either been the first song or the last song. It felt slightly jarring after that like powerful moment to go into Best Paddy. I think that's the name of the title of the song that comes afterwards, which was like the love song. or like, you know, a guy, maybe not a love song, maybe like a guy like putting his moves on a girl. Like it felt like it was like, oh, okay, I've gone from like this like deep moment to like, okay, now we're back to boys, if you get what I mean. Why did you decide to do that arrangement? Was there some? I'm sure there was some logic behind it.
Yeah, so the sequencing is very intentional because I think it makes what you're saying absolutely makes sense because Best Buddy really is just a song about putting his moves. But I think the reason I let it follow is because of the hook. Because it says, "Girl, I will be your best buddy." So I kind of felt like right after this very serious conversation, which is our sisters or women telling us whatever they need to tell us, and looking at all the other songs that I had, this one is the one that sort of had a hook that was saying, you know, so it's like, okay, I've listened to you, now I'm going to do my best to become, you know, your best friend. It's just that the lyrics it's not like so
plain
on people. Yeah. Because we also needed radio records sort of. You understand? And if you check, I think I think for my sisters it's in between Joe and Best Buddy or something. I forgot.
Let me get it up. I have it in front of me. There's a track list.
Yeah.
So it's Joe, Joe with featuring Walasi.
Yes. Yes. So Joe is saying is basically saying I'm going to cut this woman off because I have goals to achieve and she's stressing. And then you hear from the woman, and then Best Buddy says, you know what? I'm going to be better, I'm going to be your best friend. So it's intentional in a way. So we had these two records that were made specifically for radio. Right? They were made for radio, but then we also needed to make sure that they fit with the story.
Yes.
And that was like one of the best places I could have fit them. So whilst I agree with your critique, maybe if I didn't put that right after, people will understand how serious this particular moment is. But it just felt better story-wise because of very specific things. And also because I knew that, and I guess this was more from a marketing perspective. I knew that men especially were going to struggle with that particular song. So I needed to stick it in between two very easy to listen to records so that it doesn't throw them off the project completely. You understand? So that they go from that to, they calm down a little and then they move on to so that's why I did it. That's why.
Okay. That makes sense. I put in the medicine and the sweet. Yeah. No, I like it. That explains because I was thinking like, it's such a. I'm sure there's a logic for it because it's such a huge moment, and then to go to like the more love, radio.
So I think it's. I think even after from my sisters, I think in terms of the seconds of silence before the next record, I think after from my sisters to Best Buddy probably has the longest bit of because we actually did recognize that this was very serious and it was coming after this very but it just didn't fit anywhere else story wise. Right? So if I had put it, let's say, after Loser, it probably would have made sense for my sisters. But then Joe and Best Buddy would have also been a struggle to place.
Mm.
You understand? They
I
would
get
have been a struggle to place because if I don't put them right after, it's either I'm putting uh, uh, after from my sisters, I put another very serious song, and then I put those two together,
Mm.
which doesn't really flow in terms of with the story, but
Yeah.
also even this, you're in this very serious zone, and then you have two back-to-back records that are like, you understand?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
More
I
playful.
think
Yeah.
that was the space. The problem there was that I think maybe the lyrics to the best movie could have been a lot more uh, intentional than they were.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
in terms of it could have been instead of me trying to put the moves on the romantic interest, it could have been the same book, but me saying that
Mm.
I am going to be
Be
more
better.
attentive, more listening. Yeah,
Mm.
that's how I sort of.
Mm.
Yeah, but we needed a radio record, and
Yeah.
Best Buddy wasn't
Fair
really
enough.
even recorded even with For My Brothers in Mind.
Oh,
Joe
okay.
was. Joe was like the last song recorded For My Brothers. So if you listen to the Joe lyrics, it still relates with everything that I am still
Yeah.
saying, right?
Yeah.
But Best Buddy was just a record that we had that we thought was a very so then now we needed to fit. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay. That's I know for a fact that one of the challenging process after writing all the songs is sequencing them and arranging them on the album. But I personally think you did a good job with that. And with that said, what are your general sentiments on the how the album has been received in terms of in the textual context or conversational context, right? Considering your journalistic background, how do you think the album has been received or has been engaged with? What are the general sentiments on how it has been engaged with?
Ah, I think we have a problem with like mainstream Ghanaian media, right?
Mhm.
Mm.
Um, and people are always like quick to blame. People are always quick to blame like journalists and let's say GIJ and stuff. And because I'm a journalist myself, I always tell people that half the time the people that actually go to GIJ or to these journalism schools end up behind the scenes. They don't end up
Mm,
on your screens
Mm.
because they don't have a certain look.
right.
You understand? So you have the people that you are mad at are actually people with absolutely no training, in journalism. And so everything they do is very generic.
Mm,
When they came in the game, they were talking, oh, you are supposed to ask this, ask that. So it's the same, it's the
mm,
same
mm,
10, 15 questions everywhere.
mm,
But outside mainstream media, a lot of people that actually care about content, that actually take their time to listen,
mm,
have a lot to. And usually when I'm doing interviews, I pick and choose. There are interviews I do just because I just want people to know that I have something out.
mhm,
Mm.
But there are certain places I go that when I go, I'm going to have a conversation.
right.
Mm.
And so, like, one of my very first interviews was with Akosia Hansen and wife, and
Mm,
because I knew that we were going to have a conversation.
right.
Mm.
Right.
I knew that, and I needed to have that. Yeah.
Mm,
So, mainstream media maybe could have done better,
mm,
but even I could have done better marketing wise.
okay.
For one thing, I didn't have the funds.
Mm.
Mensa has shown me, you guys in Mensa, you've shown me that you can crowdfund. So maybe
Right. Yeah.
going into the next project, I'll probably hit you up or
It's
something.
not
But
an
I
easy
just didn't
journey
have
though.
the
It's a lot of hard work.
yeah. Challenge. There has to be. You're taking
Yeah.
people's money.
Yeah.
Nobody lets money go that easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are certain things that if I was doing it again, I probably would have.
Mm,
Like, because I didn't have money and because I didn't know it was going to be this well received,
mm,
the songs that I chose to do videos for and even the type of video that I had to do, I
mm,
ended up doing. I felt like I could have done better there on the
right.
side. You don't know how people are going to receive it. And all you're thinking about is how to prolong the conversation enough so that people keep coming back to it, even if you don't get it in the beginning. Since your resources are small, try to spread it out and don't do as well with that stuff. Yeah, so that's just the only thing. That's but at least I feel like now it has set me up so that on the next project I can be bolder because I know that people want to hear what the next album for me is going to sound like. So now I have no fear of will they listen or anything. So now I can go all out and say, even if it's only small money that I have, I'm going to choose this particular song because I think it's the most important song. And I'm going to shoot like the most important video for it. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. So, Charlie, yeah, it worked out.
I think before we talk about your newest projects, what I think we should talk about a little bit. I know we did at the beginning, but I think maybe go into a bit more. I mean, maybe I'm late to this album. I didn't really. I listened to Shining when Shining came out. I didn't really take to this album or really hear about it until Salam J was like, "You need to listen to this album," and I did. And I just want to say, like, congratulations on the best album of 2019. Like it's a dope
and I also think
piece
that
of work.
it was I think it's the best album for 2019 and the most relevant album for 2020 because of what we went through in 2020. I think it was the most relevant album for 2020. If anybody was going through anything during that time and had listened to that album, I think that it was the most relevant album for 2020. Yeah.
Here's how I know it really like touched people. Because usually 2 weeks after you drop a project, people are like asking you when's the next song or when's the next whatever. Like we were deep into 2020 and people were still talking about it like the album just dropped like a month ago.
Right.
And nobody was even asking me for any music. Like they just want the concerts and videos and you understand. And I'm like, oh, even to this day, like people are like, yeah, we like the new project. It's nice for my brothers too.
I think For My Brothers was really, really For My Brothers. And if you're a young Ghanaian and you live in Ghana, I think you will feel it. Yeah. Especially for our generation, you will feel it. You know, somewhere you will feel
I felt
so.
it. I'm a woman and I felt it. I felt like every song hit me in every way. I think I have to shout out to one of our producers, Mashoud, who said, Dia, sorry, my tree's not great. Dia, right?
Yeah.
Dia is the best, the most well written song he's had over the last 2 years.
Yes.
And from Mashoud, that's huge.
It is an incredible, one of the best writers I personally like have read from our past.
Yeah.
So shout out to him. So that is my praise.
Yes.
Yeah, even though the song was written way before 2019.
Yes. Yeah. Mashoud has been writing for you things for forever, and he's given us some great piece of works. I remember Shining. We did something with you with Shining. That's awesome. You know my favorite song on Shining, the song that I connect to the most, Ghetto Story. That's my favorite.
So I see Rich Dad Poor Dad Ghetto Story, and there was one that was before Rich Dad 2, or one called 2 called Success Story. I see the three of them as a trilogy sort of. So on Success Story, I'm talking about being able to enter the same rooms with people who came from way better backgrounds. And that to me is success because it may not mean anything to you that you are here because maybe it took you only 3 steps to get here. But if you know where I was coming from, to be able to be in the same space with you and to have my opinion be valid in the same space with you, it's success. You understand? And it is not success even just for me, but it's success for the people that I grew up with. You understand? So I was like, you will feel hate, but in my hood, I'm a success story.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Because them seeing that, like, oh, this person is here, this person is, and I actually that's the first song in the trilogy, and that was just celebrating being able to brave all the odds and making it through a certain point that you thought was special, right? And you were always told that you won't be able to get to, and realizing in that time that you've been able to do it, so it's success in a way. It's big for the people where you came from. Then Little Story is now you've been in the space for so long and you're now realizing this space was not all that special anyway. These people were not that much. These people were not that much than us. It is just the way that we were raised. There was too much fear in us. You understand? So I say, my mommy say, "Oh, any bump which is a poor person's kid. Didn't go looking for trouble.
Yeah.
It's me buy any book for school. So my son be cool and finish school. Now when you be like at that point, all my mom wanted was for us to be able to have our own house. Right? Rich people special, you can't be like them. You know, when I say ain't that some shit, one day I'll tell my kid that the world is his.
Yes.
Give up something.
Yeah.
So it's like this. Now I'm here, I'm with these people, and now realizing these people are not anything special.
Yeah.
They just had opportunity, right?
Yeah.
You know, so one day I'll tell my kid that I'll let my kid know, even without the opportunities, that you are just as valid as these other people. And the opportunities are going to come if you keep believing that.
Yeah.
Right? So that is just speaking on that fear. And Rich for that is just tying all that in to say, first, I wanted to get here. Then when I got here, I realized that I was so happy about getting here because I thought that I was less than people that were here, but I wasn't really less. Now, why was I thinking that I was less? It was because my parents transferred their fears onto me and made me feel like I was less. So, reach that for that is one day is I'm making sure that I don't become that person for my kids. So it's like a therapy in a way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, this is beautiful, Kojo. Yeah, this is deep. Okay, so so I think my last question before we get into the new project. So I understand that you're writing a novel, right? If I stand to be corrected.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I've been trying forever. But I've been trying forever. I think I need I need a creative director in that aspect. Because the thing with me is, bro, there's so much happening in my head all the time that I always need someone to help me stay on course. Because I'll start one thing and then in the middle of that, a line or something will trigger something else, and before I know, I'm doing something entirely different. So I have projects I didn't complete. I have projects I completed and then they are just there because it just went into some other direction. So I think even with that, I need somebody that helps me. Like this is what we are writing about. You understand? And shout outs to Evans, Kafu Yofori.
Mm-hmm.
That's my creative director, and for my brothers, that's my creative director.
Mm.
Basically, all my projects now.
Mm.
Because without him, I don't think anybody would have heard. I would have gone to something.
Wow.
We thank you. We thank you, man.
Thanks, thanks, Evans.
Yeah. So is it so? Can you give us some of the things that you in terms of writing? So you're looking at be writing beyond music. So is it just novels? Or do you write poems? Do you write short stories? You know, like what are the things that you playing around with?
Poems come easier to me because rap itself is poetry.
Okay.
So that I have a lot more
Mm.
of. And then I've been trying to do a lot of short stories just to sharpen up like
Mm.
my pen sort of.
Mm.
But I believe I have like 2 or 3 very good novels in me
Wow.
that need to get out before
Wow.
before I am done. Because I have this whole world sort of like a a Harry Potter or Hobbit thing
Mm. Mm.
in my head.
Mm.
I knew it was going to
Based
be
in
like
Africa.
dystopian or magical. I just knew
Yeah.
it was going to be that. I think it may have been the Marvel references in some of the songs. I was like, I know it's going to be something like
The songs, right?
that.
But that's the thing, though. I am taking history and twisting it just a little bit
Mm.
for that world that I'm trying to create.
Mm.
And the whole premise is, what if what the white man made us believe was a fetish priest was just like a time traveler,
Mm.
right?
Mm. Mm.
So what if maybe Togbe Charlie or Confanochi's time travel machine just crashed in 17 whatever,
Mm.
and the reason they thought he was so magical was because he had all this knowledge from the future in terms of science, right? Because for me, a lot of
Woo!
a lot of African traditional religion magic thing. I believe magic is just undiscovered science,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they will say, oh, Okonfonoche could call a person and then they will speak in a calabash, right? But me and you were speaking in a calabash right now.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And now it's not so magical because everybody can do it,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
So the only difference is not magic. It's only magic because he hasn't shared that knowledge
Mm.
with everybody
Mm.
else. So just based off of that, I'm thinking of what if what if that was what happened and he was just a person from the future and his machine crashed, but now he was trying to make sure that he guides because if he doesn't guide it, then he doesn't exist in the future anymore. So he has to make sure that because he's read the history books and he knows this happened here, this happened here, he has to
Wow.
guide it gradually.
Wow.
Yes.
Kojo, I
We
think
have to
So
write this.
there's
yeah,
that.
I think this what I think you should do. I think you should look out for residencies. Take a residency and then just focus on the
Yeah.
I'm sure with residencies, I'm sure they have people to help you, guide you. There are libraries that you can visit to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are a lot of
But I think I need to finish the work of Kojo Cue first, and then I move on to the writing bits. Yeah. So my writing name is uh, Oni Padnia, but spelled to look like it is first name,
Second name.
middle name, set, but it's actually Oni Padnia, like the the brother of the people. Yeah. So I need to finish Kojo Cue's work. For my brother is actually a part of four series uh, projects, which I call Ganaman Times. Me and my creative director call Ganaman Times, but we don't call any of them. So we're supposed to do one that is more political, and then we're supposed to do one that is just about my experiences as a listener, and we're supposed to do one that is sort of my let's say my manifesto or my listing on uh, a new world, a new Ghana, a new Africa that I think we can build.
Mm.
Yeah. So actually, the the second one, which is now like the third one, we're calling it Ghana Your Mother. It was supposed to come out like the next year or after for my brothers, but I couldn't write it because I lost. A lot was happening, and sometimes it feels like you're fighting for a group of for better for a group of people, but they can't see it. And sometimes because of all the trauma, they are the biggest opposition
Yeah. Okay.
to what you're trying to do. But even though I had that plan and I felt like that's an album that needs to be made because there's a lot more that I need to talk about politically and everything. But then the inspiration was just not there because I felt like
They're getting pushed back.
yeah, like I don't think they deserve it. So I pushed it to work on something that was coming more. So now it's like most likely like the third or the fourth installment. And we're going to call it Ghana Your Mother,
Ghana Your Mother. Okay. I can't
which
wait
is
to
a
hear it.
play. Yeah, which is a play on words. Ghana Your Mother, as in like a fuck you to Ghana,
Yeah.
but also Ghana Your
Your motherland.
your mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because because I plan to start it off as a fuck you to Ghana, but then gradually progress it into letting everybody see that the fuck you that we are sending to Ghana, it's a fuck you back to all of us because it is all of us collectively that make Ghana.
So this has been This House Is Not For Sale, your podcast of conversations around African hip hop, brought to you by Yoyo Things. And it has been a great time with Salam J, Hevzi, and Kojo Cue. See you in the next episode. Peace.
Hip hop is what we do, man. This the new movement.